Good morning, folks. This morning I'm going to be harvesting some peaches from this tree behind me while I chat to you about what's been happening on our farm. So we haven't had peaches for a couple of years now. I think we've had like a random couple of peaches, but we haven't had peaches due to the rain that we've had in winter to autumn over the last few years, and it just kills the blossoms. So the blossoms don't actually get pollinated, and then we don't end up with any fruit. But this year we've harvested quite a few kilograms of peaches, and I've just noticed that the birds are starting to go after these ones, so we're bringing them inside to fully ripen. There is nothing, absolutely nothing like a piece of fruit off the tree after the afternoon sun has been hitting it and it's all juicy and warm. It's the best. I love picking peaches in the afternoon, but because the birds have been coming in, and we've also had earwigs as well coming into the areas where the birds have pecked into the fruit, so then the earwigs eat away at the fruit as well. But we've got, a few pieces of fruit like this that have some holes in them, but they're perfectly fine. And they're ripening just beautifully. So here's another one. They're ripening beautifully off the tree. This one is actually a bit squishy. So one thing about homesteading or having a farm and having animals on the farm is that you get deaths from time to time. And it's a really hard time when that happens. So we've had a few deaths this summer so far. And so we've had a few chickens. We've had a rooster just die right in front of my eldest daughter's eyes. He looked like he had a stroke or a heart attack, and it was quite surprising. He looked really, really healthy, and it really just took us by surprise to have something like that happen. And so we try our best to keep our animals healthy and strong, but just like ourselves as humans, we get older and we get more problems, and our condition just gets worse. This is a good sized one. So that is one thing to take into account when you want to get animals. You've got to know what to do when one gets sick, know what to do when it's just time to say goodbye, and just be ready for that grief that comes with losing an animal, and just go through that grief. My kids really feel it as well. It's really hard to watch them grieve, and all you can do is just be there with them. Can't do anything about it. They need to go through that grieving. It is really important for them to feel all of that sadness. So we've had a bit of that happen over this summer so far, and some years we go without hardly any deaths at all. Probably, one or two, and it's usually the chickens. It's usually those chickens that we get from like the rescued ones, the ones that are only really built to live 2 years, unfortunately. The heritage chickens we've had some that would have exceeded 10 years if it wasn't for Mr. Fox that came along and took them. So I highly recommend getting some heritage breed chickens because they will last longer. They are more resilient of all the diseases and things like that. We've got a titchy tiny one. It's so cute. So we've had ewes that have lived till 12 years old, and they've had a fantastic life on this farm. And you just got to think about those things too. And I try to get my kids to think about that, that we've given them such a great life here. And so now we're looking at ways we can support them more, especially as we're going into years of drought coming up. There's going to be less rainfall in the future years. So we're looking at destocking a lot more. So having fewer animals on our property, because we don't want to be bringing in hay, we don't want to be buying lucerne and all that to support our animals. We want to be sowing into our paddocks and trying to support them that way. And as we are new to doing the sowing of paddocks, we want to be able to support them. So we're thinking hard about all of that stuff, and we're really going to decrease the amount of animals we have just for this future drought time. And then, like when it was raining season and we had, multiple years of so much rain, we had grass up to my hip. Like we had huge, thick, beautiful grass after we had, put manure down. We'd spread manure in the paddocks, and we'd also amended the soil as well. We put lots of calcium, lots of magnesium, manganese, all of that into the soil, into the paddocks, and that reaped benefits. We also did keyline ripping, which it's like these massive knives that just go down into the soil and they just move along behind the tractor. We had someone come in to do that and to do swales. And usually when we had a massive downpour, it would just go off the property. It would go down to the dams and fill the dams, so that was good, but it would go off the property as well. The day after we had the keyline done, there was no water off the property. It all went into the soil, so it's definitely worth getting that done. So we are going to have fewer apples this year because the birds have been coming in and eating them, and we're not quite ready to do netting yet. All right, I'm going to leave the last few peaches that are down the bottom for my youngest daughter to harvest, because she's really enjoyed harvesting them. And I've been trying to weigh all of the peaches, so I have a weight of how many kilos of peaches that we've harvested this year. But we went out yesterday and she just ran over to the tree and grabbed 8 of them, and I took 8 off the tree and weighed them and wrote that weight down. So it's a bit of an estimate of how much we've harvested from this tree. And also one other tree, we had just 4 peaches off it. I'll show you the tree, hold on. So here's the tree. I don't know if you can see it all that well, but it has been hacked back majorly, and we've painted it. It's got some black paint. It's like paint for trees to help them heal. And this had major leaf curl on it. So we had to cut it all the way back because it had so much disease on it. And we've really gotten on top of the curly leaf, which is great. All right, seeing as though we're doing a bit of a harvest, I just wanted to check on these plums, and the birds have obviously been on to these as well. I might pick a few and see if they ripen, but generally with the plums, that one came off immediately and it's a bit squishy, so that's a good sign. If they just fall into your hand, then that's a good sign that they are ready to pick. All right, so I'll pick a few. We're going to let them ripen inside, and see, here's a few that have dropped. I might collect these as well. So this tree has been hacked back quite a bit as well. My husband is the fruit tree expert in the family, and he has been doing some summer pruning because he missed doing some winter pruning. And he tells me that you do summer pruning for different reasons. So particularly with plums and pears, they just like to take off. They just take off, and so he does some summer pruning to stop that massive growth that they can do, and they get too big. So the ideal tree is that it's a vase. So in here, there's nothing in the middle here, so there's airflow. And if you imagine too, there'd be more leaves on these branches normally. But also because this tree had some disease, he's cut off all the disease. So that's what you do when you're pruning. You cut the disease off first, and then you assess everything. So he's really made this tree, the structure of all the trees are to have this vase that has an openness in the middle. It just keeps the trees nice and healthy. We've been having a lot of fruit like this, so it's It's got two in one. This is a late apple tree. I can't remember the name of it right now, but I will ask my husband later. I've got a bucket over there that I've been throwing all of this fallen fruit into. But I'm going to take a few of these inside and see if I can make something out of them, even though they're going to be really, really sour. But if I chuck some other things with them, they might turn into something good. So I'm just trying to put all of the fallen fruit into the compost so then we don't get any fruit fly or disease. It's really good to just keep under the tree nice and clear of any of the fallen fruit and grass. Although, as you can see here, there's plants growing into this area which need to be hacked back. But these have to be some of my favourite apples, and they get so big, like they'll get like massively big. They generally just grow so big. Yeah, so there's still quite a few on here, despite the fact that I have found the cockies on this tree. You can see here, here's one that they've eaten away at. So we will get some fruit, hopefully, from this tree, as long as I get up early enough to scare them off. And here's our nashi tree. It always has so much fruit on it. And it's quite amazing. At some point in spring, I'll be like, oh, I don't think we've got much fruit on this tree. And then all of a sudden, it's just laden with fruit all the way up to the top. This tree is quite big, but as you can see, in the middle here, and this is why you need to do some summer pruning, in the middle here we've got some big shoots of growth coming up. So we will come along and prune out this massive growth up here, and if you could just see it properly, but you know, like even this one's bending over and it's not, you know, it's not thick enough up here to support all of this fruit. So it's really important that all the branches are thick enough to support the fruit that it's going to have on it. Because when these are full size, they're really going to take the load. So what will happen is probably some of this fruit will be pruned off in the summer pruning, just so that the whole branch doesn't break off the tree. So we don't want to lose the whole branch just for a few pieces of fruit. So this is a pink lady tree behind me, and it needs a desperate prune. It wasn't pruned over winter, unfortunately. My husband didn't get around to this one. Sometimes the farm takes over the garden chores for him. One other thing that's happening with our fruit trees is the pear slug, and the pear slug will cause quite a lot of damage. Fortunately, I have been coming here and squishing the slugs, and you can see a whole lot of new leaves that are perfectly fine in the middle here. But yeah, there are a lot of leaves that are skeletoned, which is what the slug does to the tree, to the leaves rather. There are so many pears on this tree. I believe this one is a Pakenham, or maybe it's a Williams pear. I'll pop it on the screen because I can't quite remember. But this tree is really old, actually. So this tree is a really good representation of what happens to a tree when you keep it in a pot. So we had this one actually in a massive wine barrel when we were renting in Melbourne, and it was probably in the wine barrel for a good 5-6 years, and it's really stunted its growth. So the trunk is just so small compared to other pears that we've planted that are only 4 or 5 years old. Maybe some of them are even 8 years old, but this one here is 14 plus years old, and it's just so small. So it is really interesting how having that start in a pot has really stunted its growth, and it's just not as vigorous as our other pears. So here is an example of this and how it happens, because this tree, even though it's a different sort of tree, right, but this tree, this almond tree, has the same sort of vigor as a pear or a plum has, and it is massive. This one got planted straight into the ground. I think it was in a pot. It wasn't bare rooted, but it was only 2 years old when it got given to us. I think it was a gift, so that's why it was in a pot. But it just shows you that they want to be in the ground. And the same goes for this plum tree behind me. The trunk is massive like this, and that pear over there, I can put my hands around it, and my hands are not big. So it just shows you that if you put it in the ground, it makes a huge difference. I definitely think that people who are renting should definitely put trees in pots and wine barrels. Perhaps choose dwarf trees, because the rootstock is just a smaller rootstock, so it's going to be a smaller tree. This pear, however, was destined to be a massive tree and have a massive trunk, because the rootstock is for a larger tree. But we got so much fruit from it when we were renting, and I highly recommend putting them in wine barrels because they have a bigger space. But every single winter, I think it was pretty much every winter, or maybe every second winter, because we had some trees, younger ones, that the apples that are out the back, we had them in massive pots, and my husband would have to dig them out every winter and prune back the roots so that they didn't get pot bound. And I think the ones in wine barrels he must have done a couple of times. So you kind of need to maintain the tree in that way too. You need to make sure that you attend to the roots as well. All right, I'm out in my veggie garden now, and I've got a new basket. I need to harvest some things for the dehydrator because I have to empty it, and I'm not sure what I have in the garden, so let's just go and have a look. So I'm going to harvest some lettuce for my lunch today. I might make a salad to go with lunch. I am thoroughly enjoying having my electric oven and my induction stove. It has really changed things for me because just living with a wood fire oven has been really hard in summer. And yeah, it's just blowing my mind what I'm getting done. And I've already started, making lots of things with zucchinis. It's just really, really great. I'm so excited. We've had quite a few days on the farm this week, just getting things done with the animals. And there was a plant growing in the paddock, and my husband's turned to me, he's like, "What is that plant?" And it looks really familiar. I wonder what it is. And so I plant ID'd it with the app that I have on my phone, and it turned out to be a watermelon plant in the paddock. So I don't know how a watermelon seed got out there. Perhaps a bird took it from some watermelon that was in our compost, or, came from our compost. I don't know. Or maybe out at the chicken area, actually. We take watermelon out to them occasionally. So I must have taken a seed out there, and we've got a watermelon plant growing in the middle of a paddock. I might dry some more chives. This plant here is doing really well. And as soon as the potato is encroaching on it, I think we'll just hack it back and see what it does. There's a few older pieces in here that I'll need to get rid of. That breeze is quite lovely, especially today when it's going to be 32 degrees. The sun already has quite a kick to it, as it does here in Australia. It gets very, very hot once that sun comes up. Might harvest a little bit more pennyroyal. I've just dehydrated a whole heap of it, so I'll cut off a bit more to put in the dehydrator. All right, I have got some beetroot that needs to be harvested, but it can wait another day till I'm ready to preserve it. I do, however, need to pick more of this calendula because I want heaps of flowers to make my calendula balms over the year. And right next to me is the eldest zucchini plant. I took 2 zucchinis off it last night, so there might not be anything ready to harvest off it this morning. This is why I bring a little bowl along so I can pop the flowers in it. I was going to harvest some chamomile flowers, but I think the plant's looking like it's almost done, and it just takes quite a while to harvest the chamomile, and the sun is just getting really, really hot now, so I think I'll just leave them till tomorrow morning. Maybe I can get up a bit earlier. I had a bit of a sleep in this morning till about 7, so that was nice. All right, I'm going to harvest some more basil from these basil plants. Let's try and take a good amount off if I can. I love having dried basil to use in the winter time. It's just so nice. But I also freeze the leaves whole. You don't really have to do much to them. You just freeze them and then you can use them in your meals whenever. So you probably already know, but you want to take the tops off. So then the next set of leaves can take off and sprout up. You don't want to be hacking it completely back. But I go further down and I do pick off the larger leaves. So, I mean, for example, I could have taken this one off a while ago. It's been eaten into now. So the nutrients in this is not great, but the scent and the smell will be fantastic still. So I could, still keep that leaf. This one's gone a bit yellow though, so I won't be taking that one. But yeah, I just want to go and I want to give this one quite a good prune back because, we're still early in the season. There's lots of basil to come from this plant. And as long as I keep chopping off the flower heads, it will keep trying to produce more flowers because all it wants to do is keep, growing and trying to produce seed so that it can make some babies, it can multiply itself. It doesn't want to die out completely. Every plant wants to keep making more multiple plants so that it keeps living on and on. The red basil is not doing so well, so I've only got one plant left after that frost of the red basil, so I'm not sure why that one's not doing so well. This tomato plant here really needs staking. I need to get some more stakes because the rest of the ones that we have are very short. I've been watering at nighttime because I did water a few times in the morning and I noticed that some of the leaves were getting burnt from the sunshine, so I think it's really important that I water in the evenings now. Plus I always have more time in the evenings because in the mornings I'm doing this. I'm harvesting and I'm getting food for meals for the day because in the morning is the best time to harvest most things. All right, I probably need a few spring onions, or these are the Egyptian walking onions. So I'm just going to pull a few out, and I use these as onions or spring onions because they're quite strong in flavour, so stronger than a spring onion. But look at that, I've got 3 there ready to go. Perfect. All right, the thyme. I said I was going to have a go at trying to dry a bit more thyme. So let's see if we can squish a bit more into my basket here. We want to try and grab the new beautiful stuff, not this dried, seeded sprouts. Oh, it smells so good. I just love having lots of dried thyme for the winter time to have with potatoes and with our lamb as well. There are a lot of seeds falling off this plant as I'm harvesting. Okay, I think I'll leave it at that. I could keep harvesting because there are still, quite a few parts of this plant that I could take from, but let's leave it at that. So I've just noticed my pumpkin needs to be wound through the Rio a bit more, but there are some fruits coming. Look here. So exciting. This one here is taking over these pumpkins up here, so I'll try and get it to up and come up the Rio here rather than spreading to the side, because these ones need some room and they are getting bigger, which is good. I'm just keeping the water up to them. I don't even mind if they spread into the pathway here, but yeah, I'm going to try and train them up the Rio, but some of them will probably have to go on the path because, you know, there's so many plants here. Well, thank you for coming along on that little harvest with me. We have enough for the dehydrator. Probably not as much as I would have liked, but that's enough for now. It's getting a bit warm out here and I'm ready to head inside. And we've got some fruit to eat over the next few days, I think. At the rate we're going through peaches, I think we're just going to be enjoying them fresh, and hopefully next year I can do some preserving with our peaches. If you haven't already, please do go over and subscribe to my channel if you like this sort of content, growing food in Victoria, Australia. And I don't say it enough, but don't forget to press like and to shoot me a comment. Let me know what you're harvesting out of your garden at the moment. Take care, my friends, and I will see you in the next video. Almost forgot to harvest some of this lettuce.